All right, here we are, FaveQuest Hockey Show, February 9th. Montreal Canadiens are in town. I'd like to thank Filthy McNasties for having us show up here once again. Have a little bit of fun with a little bit of the crowd, and some of that crowd is left. Got to check out the hockey game, which the Sens should annihilate the Habs tonight.
Alfie's back.
What was that?
I said Alfie's back.
Alfie's back. Heatley's on a roar. Heatley was an open net, an empty net goal away from a hat trick the other night. So anyway, my special guest this evening, as you may have seen him in the first part of the show, is Shredder from the Sens Underground. He was the only one able to make it tonight out of the three guys. We have Russell, Stooley, and Shredder. And I think this guy is probably the most important because the other guys can't handle a mouse.
And the most popular.
And the most popular.
People love him.
People love him, okay. So right now I'd like to hand it over to the Shredder, and I'd like him to tell everybody about the fan base that he's created, why he's created it, and the passion that he has as being a Sens fan. So Shredder, I'd like to hand it off to you.
Yeah.
Start at the beginning, 3 years ago I believe.
Yeah, well it was in October 2005 actually. I was golfing with my buddy Russell, who actually is the host of the show now. And I was, I'm a huge Apple fan, and I was on iTunes, and I was checking out all the podcasts that were out there. There was a whole bunch of podcasts out there covering sports. There was hundreds of them for football and baseball, and I noticed there was a few for hockey teams as well. And I figured, you know what, him and I used to be in the band, and we had a lot of the gear, the mixers, the mics, and all that kind of stuff.
Why can't we do that?
Yeah, so let's give it a shot.
Yeah.
So I was talking to Russell, and he had never heard about what a podcast was, and then he's like, no word of a lie, first thing he says to me is like, who's going to want to listen to a bunch of nobodies in their basement talking about hockey? Well, you know what? Turns out, a lot. So we did our first show, we were very raw. I mean, none of us pretend to be, pros at doing these radio shows and stuff like that, but we just gave it a shot. And, right after our first episode, I couldn't believe the response we got. So we started doing this, and this is our third season now. At the start of our second season, go ahead.
Now, what was your first show about? Like,
Aren't you listening?
Yeah, but how did you bring that in? Like, what were you talking about other than the Sens? How did you bring that in to get the people fired up for the show?
Well, we said when we did a pilot, we did a little test runs.
Right.
We were like thinking, how are we? Our original shows were supposed to be like 20 minutes long, and we're like, are we going to be able to fill 20 minutes? Oh, let's give it a shot. So we did our first little test run, and we flapped like an hour and a half. And now we're trying to keep our shows under an hour, and it's impossible. Most of our shows are about an hour and a half. So we basically put together a structure. We'll talk about the games because our show is once a week. We'll talk about the games from the week. We'll talk about the injury reports and anything making news on the Senators as well in the NHL.
Sure.
We should share our opinions, and I think what people like is Sens fans like listening because what we do, our motto is it's a show for Sens fans by Sens fans. We're just Sens fans like the next guys.
Right.
And we share our opinions, and it's nice that, and we get so much feedback from our listeners who either share our opinions or disagree with them. And we get tons of emails, and this is our third year, and our numbers are we have around 12,000 loyal listeners around the world.
12,000 in 3 years.
Yeah.
12 out of some idea that you hatched out because you had enough recording equipment in your basement because you were both musicians. Say, well, why don't we do this ourselves?
But the thing that really helped too is once we started getting popular, at least on the internet world, we got a couple of high-profile guests on our show. We started off with Ian Mendez, and then we managed to get Pierre McGuire.
Yeah.
And you know what? Since then,
Pierre McGuire?
Yeah, Pierre McGuire's been on our show 5 times already.
5 times?
We've had Kelly Rudy, Scotty Morrison, Bob McKenzie.
No way.
Oh yeah, we've had a lot of big names. We had Dean Brown 2 times. We had Gord Wilson a couple of times. Brent Wallace, he's been on our show a number of times. We've had James Duffy. And it seems like now every week our listeners expect it. We have to go out there and find a guest. It's been unbelievable. We've had CTV come in last year during the final and did a news story on us, which played every 15 minutes on Newsnet, TV Newsnet, nationwide, which made our numbers spike up.
Now what was What was the purpose when CTV approached you and said, we want to do a show about you guys? What was their purpose? What did they say?
Well, I think it started from a writer, a sports writer for the Ottawa Citizen, and he came across our website, and he couldn't believe the guests we were getting on the show, so he contacted us, and he did a news story on us, and then we were in the Ottawa Citizen, and then not long after that, maybe that's where CTV heard of us, and then they looked into it, and they called us and they said, you know, we think what you guys are doing is great. We couldn't believe it, you know, the Underground Network.
Yeah.
And they showed up to, we shoot the show from my house, in my basement. So they came with a camera crew and a reporter, and they did a news story for us. And
it's actually, so it's actually an underground show in your basement.
Yep. Nowhere
else in your basement.
Yeah, you should see my office actually. It looks like a radio studio. So we have all the lights and the mixers and all the computers. And
awesome.
It's a lot of fun.
So when you have your special guests in, they show up in your basement at your house, or they do call in?
Well, when we got Ian Mendez, we didn't have the equipment to properly do a phone interview with Ian Mendez. I think we did it via Skype, and it was not so good. Interview. So and then when we landed,
echoey and it's
yeah, it was just very choppy. So when we landed Pierre McGuire, we said we got to do something about it. So the guys from the podcast, we all chipped in. We bought ourselves what they call digital hybrid, which allows you to connect an analog phone system to your mixer.
Yeah.
And this way we have awesome sound quality. It's basically the same type of gear you find in a radio station for doing phone interviews, except we only have one line. And that's what we can use.
Okay, so here's a big question. As a Sens fan, running a Sens fan website out of your basement, and you all have regular jobs. How do you fund this particular hobby, this belief that you have of being a Sens fan on the Underground? How do you fund it? How do you make this thing work?
How do we fund it?
It costs money.
Yeah, it costs money.
Yeah.
We pay for it from our own pocket. See, the thing is, we started doing this. We had all the gear. We used all the web tools and all the software. That we took the cheap, the easy way out, right? The free. There was a lot of. If anybody wants to do a podcast, you could do it for pretty cheap.
Okay.
So we did that. Again, we didn't know if this was going to work out or not. But then when the show was getting successful, we decided to invest our own money. The gear and stuff like that. Like I said, the digital hybrid cost us $1,200
sure.
to do this. So I mean, we all have decent jobs and stuff like that. So we all chip in and we do that. So do we make any money doing this? Absolutely. We make few pennies from Google Ads. We get a lot of hits. Our website gets around 50,000 hits a week. So we do make a few pennies from Google Ads. But that's the thing, And we started doing this.
But you also have a donation link, right?
Yes,
for PayPal.
Yes, and we've had several of our listeners who know that we do this, as a hobby, and they appreciate all the hard work and effort we put into it. So we've had a lot of donations from listeners. So
awesome.
Yeah, some of them up to $100.
Now this is a fine example. Once again, just like 2 weeks ago when I had the Sens Squatch out here, we're talking about passionate hockey fans. Yep.
We're at Filthy McNasty's in Canada, the best sports bar in Canada. Go Sens, go!